All right, let's get this party started over here. I got some fun news to kind of share with you all. So let's roll over here. Okay, so first of all, Happy New Year, everybody. This is our first show of the new year, and I'm totally stoked that everybody's here. A couple fun things going on. So Maui has, if you're going to be going to Maui, and you're going to be going to indoor restaurants, you got to have your booster shot. So the Maui County will require people eligible for booster shots to get them to be considered fully vaccinated. So in Maui, if you're going indoors or there's a fully vaccinated requirement, you got to have your booster shot. So that means you got to plan your trip, just like, I mean, no matter where you're going these days, you got to plan your trip, right? I mean, my wife and I were thinking about going on a cruise, and then we got all the stuff about cruises that are put on hold and not going on. It's a mess. Speaking of cruises, cruises may be returning to Hawaii. It looks like it's a signal. Hasn't started yet, but the Hawaii Department of Transportation has signed port agreements with cruise liners with new rules of COVID and all that kind of stuff. So it's a sign. Cruise ships ain't lining up just yet, but it's a sign. By the way, the Hawaii cruise, I've done it several times. It's really awesome. It is phenomenal. You get on a 7-day cruise. You go to all the islands. You do activities. There's great activities on each of the islands. It's a fantastic trip, and it's got the most amazing a lava view. They bring you with this. You're at this ginormous cruise ship, and we came, fairly close to where active lava was pouring into the ocean. It was absolutely amazing because the water's pretty deep off of there. Okay, Honolulu. We're getting, if you look at the graph over here, let me pull this up here. So you look at the graph over here, gang. We too are getting whacked by COVID. It's just insane the numbers compared to previous numbers of cases. So you look at the tail end of that graph on top here, the number of cases, and it's like spiking big time. It's like we're hitting, like, I think yesterday we had like 4,000 cases, which if you look at historically, that's just an insane number. Thankfully, though, we'll see so far, but like everywhere else around the world, that doesn't seem that hospital cases and fatalities are falling. Thank goodness. That being said, Honolulu did put on a cap. I don't know if this is going to affect many things, but it's a cap. If there is an event of over 1,000 people, they're bringing it down to a 50% capacity. Everything else is unchanged. So that's kind of like a plus and minus. And finally, we're number 3. We're one of the. This is not something to brag about, but this is an important topic. We are the top one in the top 3 exodus states in the country. I believe in New York, it's Illinois, New York. I think it's Illinois, New York, and Hawaii are the top 3 states where, as a percentage, a per capita percentage of the population, people are leaving the state. Yes, people are net leaving the state. This is why we have the islander ohana, because we don't want that to happen to you. If Hawaii is right for you, we're going to figure out a way to make it right. If it's not right for you, figure it out ahead of time so you can save yourself the agony. But that is a statistic. And as Scott had mentioned, if you look over here, I got some weather. We had some really nasty weather the past week. It was unfortunately, I had some family that was visiting us, and of course they came at the beginning of the rainy at the beginning of this 2 weeks of rain, and of course they had a 2-week vacation, so they left. But they were good troopers. They managed to get themselves out anyway. So, all right, everybody. So that's the quick update. So why don't we do? Let's kind of blend a couple of things in here. Well, first of all, is there any kind of? There's an important real estate topic that we're going to bring up, and we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, is there any kind of news that you guys want to bring up? Non-real estate news, Dylan. Why don't we go clockwise? Let's go, Dylan, and then Scott. Any real estate news? No, non-real estate news you have that's happened over the past few weeks that's notable, Big Island and then Oahu. Dylan, go ahead.
Yeah, the biggest news was the storm. I mean, that was something that caused island wide. There was a lot of issues, but in Kona in particular, because I always brag on the show, we have like the best weather in the whole world, and so we don't ever get really windy weather in Kona. But when those winds came through, because we don't have normal windy weather, there's massive damage. So trees fell all over the place, telephone poles went down. There was a lot of destruction after a couple of days of wind. But surprisingly enough, the public utilities were back on in most places, within a few 10 hours, 12 hours, some places, really rural areas, there was out a day or two, but really impressed by the power company and the public utilities getting everything back online. But it was a little bit traumatic there for a couple of days, but that's like once every 10 years we get a storm like that scoops up underneath the islands and then comes up along the west side, because normally that stuff gets blocked by Mauna Loa on the, and stays on the east side of the island or goes around.
Yeah, these winds, as you mentioned, were coming. They're Kona winds, meaning they're coming out of the south. They normally come out of the northeast. These were coming out of the southwest, southeast, southwest,
Mhm.
and so the different sides of the house got wet. Parts that normally never get wet. That were like soaking. Scott, how did you fare through the storms, and what other kind of things you want to report on as far as Oahu goes?
Yeah, I was amazed at the storms because it wasn't just rain, it was coming down in buckets. And I even just walked like 20, or I ran 20 yards to get to my car one day to go on an appointment. By the time I got to my car, I was completely soaked from head to toe. So it was just a massive amount of rain all at kind of one time, and it would come in spurts and in waves, and it went on for about a month. It's interesting because I had an aha moment. The last show that you guys had, I was actually in Portland, and Portland's known, especially this time of year, for wet, cold weather. And it was interesting because it was in the 30s, and it was raining heavier than that kind of Pacific Northwest misty kind of style. And I was fine with it in the beginning because it was a change of scenery, change of pace. I was layered in thermals because I can't handle 30 to 40 degree temperatures. I'm all layered up. Then you got the jacket, I got the beanie on, I got the gloves on, and by day 4 I was over it. I loved my trip to Portland, but I was just like, oh my God, I'm tired. It's exhausting putting on that much, wearing it, and then trying to go out. I felt like I was wanting to be more sedentary at that point. And when I landed back here and came home, and it was raining, the first thing I wanted to do, shirt and shorts, and that was it. And it felt so amazing, and it just made me really appreciate the weather that we have here all year round, even with the rain. I'm totally comfortable here. Fine, let it rain outside. I don't care. I'm totally comfortable, in this environment, and it made it still enjoyable. It didn't feel like I was stuck indoors still.
It is absolutely remarkable that one thing we so take for granted, which is the weather, right? And it's not like, oh, it's just the weather. No, it's something that you live with every single minute of every single day. Every single minute of every single day is the one thing that you are always with. You're always in the atmosphere. And I'm with you, Scott. I'm with you, buddy. Hey, folks, how about you? You got any? Who out there is like, I can't handle the cold, and that's me. So who else is out there? Throw it on in the comments. I want to hear about it. Um, Kelly, no sun for 2 weeks, not so good for off-grid upgrading system now. Kelly, that's a very good point. Well, I mean, I'm not off-grid, but we did implement a battery based solar system, etc. So we can kind of, for the most part, live off the grid. But you know what, Kelly? Solar panels don't do so hot when there's no sun. They don't work. In fact, they don't work at all. And we had to pull power from the grid. Now we're not off grid. We pull power from the grid. But if you're going to be doing an upgrade, like Dylan said, this is a once in a 10-year. Scott, right? This is like a 10-year, once in a 10-year thing. I was telling so it's kind of funny. I was telling new members of the Islander Ohana who moved to Oahu at our gathering at Makapu'u Lives. We're talking about that. And I told them on our private Facebook group, I said, hey gang, this is not a normal winter. This is not a normal winter for Hawaii. It's once in a 10-year deal. So Kelly, you could do it. You could do your upgrade, but you're going to be doing it sort of a once in a 10-year thing. Scott, you wanted to say anything you want to add?
Yeah, you might be the one that we blame for this rain because you were the show before it started raining. You said, "Oh, this is an odd winter. It's been kind of dry," and then all of a sudden we got rain for a month. So
It was
either I brought it back from Portland or you created it.
somebody did, man. Somebody jinxed it. Yes, I was saying it was an unseasonably dry and warm fall, but it is now an unseasonably cold and wet winter. So I guess that's the way it kind of goes, right? Um, let's see who's got a couple of comments over here. Yeah, Joan says, "Yeah, I'll take the rain over snow." Yeah, Joan, I'm with you. I will take Joan. How about this? I will take sunny tropical weather over anything, even over rain or snow. Um, we got, and then Christopher, my wife and I are getting tired of the cold winter for sure. Yeah, Christopher, I can't do it. I can't do it. Judy, me freezing here in Colorado. It was -4 the other morning. Judy, I'm from the Midwest, from Chicago, and we say -4. We're washing our cars at -4. Piece of cake. You want -50 with the wind chill when you're in Chicago. And Sherry, I totally agree with Scott regarding the cold weather. That's why my husband and I like Hawaii one season. We're living in Southern California, which has 2 seasons. Southern Cal, you're not going wrong with that. Joyce, totally solar, and Chris watching uses daily. It is what it is. Yeah, I mean, we try to do it, but We still need base load power. Base load power is that power that's going to come no matter what. I made a Facebook post about that, and totally over the wacky Texas weather. It was 29 degrees this morning, but we had record breaking Christmas Day. Yeah, it's one of those things. Portland, more rain and flood, fun times. Candace, my heart goes out to you. Hopefully you'll survive the rain and flooding. It's not fun. But actually today is a gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous day. Of course, once the family goes back to the mainland, the weather goes back. It's fantastic. Tom says we're lucky if it's only 2 weeks without the sun here in UK. Yeah, well, there you go, buddy. I think there you go. My car doors got frozen shut. Okay, Judy, I think, yeah, that's I had one time, Judy, when it was so cold that my engine wouldn't turn over, and it was not because my battery was dead or weak. The battery was fine, but because the oil had frozen over. I was using kind of a higher viscosity oil. The oil had frozen over, and the motor was not turning over.